Hi boys and girls. Today I've got you a lovely long story. So you might want to go and get a drink, get yourself comfy and cuddle up with someone that you love for this one. It's about a little girl called Pippi Longstocking. She is one of my all-time favourite characters. She's very funny, she's a bit silly and she's extremely strong. The author of the Pippi Longstocking books is Astrid Lindgren, a Swedish author, and today's story is called Pippi Goes to the Circus. A circus had come to the little town and all the children ran to their mothers and fathers to ask permission to go. Tommy and Annika did too, and their nice papa promptly gave them several lovely silver coins. With the coins held tightly in their hands, they rushed off to find Pippi. She was on the porch with her horse, busy twisting his tail into plaits which she tied with red bows. "It's his birthday today, at least I think it is," she said, "and that's why he has to look nice." "Pippi," said Tommy, puffing and puffing because they had run so fast. "Pippi, do you want to come to the circus?" "I can go to almost anything," said Pippi, "but I'm not sure whether I can go to a circus because I don't know what a circus is. Does it hurt?" "Don't be silly," said Tommy. "Of course it doesn't hurt. It's lots of fun, with horses and clowns and beautiful ladies walking on tight ropes." "But it costs money," said Annika, and she opened her hand to see if the coins were still there. "I'm as rich as a troll," said Pippi, "so I can always buy myself a circus, although it's going to get a bit crowded if I'm going to have any more horses. I suppose I could stack up the clowns and the beautiful ladies in the laundry room." "Silly," said Tommy. "You're not supposed to buy the circus. Don't you understand? It costs money to go in and look." "Good gracious," cried Pippi, shutting her eyes. "It costs money to look. And here I go around staring all day long. Who knows how much money I've already spent." After a while she cautiously opened one eye and said, "I don't care what it costs. I have to have a look." Finally, Tommy and Annika managed to explain to Pippi what a circus was. Then Pippi went to get several coins from her suitcase. After that she put on her enormous hat and they hurried off to the circus. A big crowd had gathered outside the circus tent and there was a long queue at the ticket window. Eventually it was Pippi's turn. She stuck her head in the window, stared hard at the nice old lady and said, "How much does it cost to look at you?" But the old lady was a foreigner and she didn't understand what Pippi meant, so she said, "Little girl, it costs 5 krona for front seats and 3 krona for seats in the back and 1 krona for standing room." "All right," said Pippi, "but then you have to promise to walk the tightrope." Now, Tommy stepped forward and said that Pippi wanted a seat in the back. Pippi handed over a coin. The lady gave Pippi a ticket. She also gave her lots of coins in change. "What am I supposed to do with all these horrid little white coins?" said Pippi. "Why don't you keep them? Then I can look at you twice instead of once from the standing room." Since Pippi refused to accept any change, the woman gave her a ticket for a front row seat. She also gave Tommy and Annika front row seats, and they didn't even have to spend any of their money. So that was how Pippi and Tommy and Annika ended up sitting on fancy red chairs right next to the circus ring. Tommy and Annika kept turning round to wave at their classmates who were sitting at the back. "What a strange tent this is," said Pippi. "Does it cost something to listen, or can we do that for free?" At that moment, a curtain was pulled aside from the performer's entrance, and the ringmaster, wearing a black coat with a whip in his hand, came running behind. Behind him came 10 white horses with red plumes on their heads. The ringmaster cracked his whip, and the horses galloped around the ring. Then the ringmaster cracked his whip again, and all the horses stood on their hind legs with their front hooves up on the wall. One of the horses came to a halt right in front of where the children were sitting. Pippi leaned forward, lifted up the horse's front hoof and said, "Glad to meet you. I bring you many greetings from my horse. He has a birthday today, just like you." Luckily, Pippi let go of the horse's hoof before the ringmaster cracked his whip again, because then all the horses hopped down from the wall and went back to galloping. When the performance was over, the ringmaster bowed politely and the horses trotted off. The curtain opened again for a black horse, and on his back stood a beautiful lady wearing green silk tights. It said in the programme that her name was Senorita Carmencita. The horse trotted around, and she stood calmly on his back. But then something happened. Just as the horse passed the spot where Pippi was sitting, something whooshed through the air, and that something was none other than Pippi. And there she stood on the horse's back behind Senorita Carmencita. At first she was so surprised that she almost fell off the horse, and then she got angry. She started flailing around her to try and get Pippi to jump off, but it did no good. "Calm down a couple of notches," said Pippi. "Surely you're not the only one who's allowed to have any fun. Other people have paid for tickets too. I am sure of that." Senorita Carmencita tried to jump off the horse, but without success, because Pippi had a firm grip on her waist. And then all the spectators at the circus couldn't help laughing. They thought it looked so funny to see the beautiful Senorita Carmencita held tight by a little red-headed girl who stood there on the horse's back with her big shoes, looking as if performing in the circus was the most natural thing in the world. But the ringmaster wasn't laughing. He gave a signal to rush over and stop the horse. "Is the show over?" said Pippi. "Just when we were having so much fun." "You stupid child," snarled the ringmaster. "Get out!" Pippi gave him a distressed look. "What's going on?" she said. "Why are you so cross with me? I thought we were having a good time." She jumped off the horse and went back to her seat. Then two big attendants came over to throw her out. They grabbed hold of Pippi and tried to lift her, but they couldn't do it. Pippi sat absolutely still, and there was no way they could budge her from the spot, no matter how hard they tried. So they turned around and left. There was a slight delay because the ringmaster was getting ready for the next act. He came back in, bowed to the audience and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, in a moment you will behold the greatest marvel of our time, the strongest man in the world, Strong Adolf, who is still undefeated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Strong Adolf." And into the ring stepped a giant of a man. He was dressed in flesh-coloured tights with a leopard skin wrapped around his waist. He bowed to the audience, looking very pleased with himself. "Just look at those muscles," said the ringmaster as he squeezed Strong Adolf's arm. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, now I have a truly grand offer to make. Who among you will dare attempt a wrestling match with Strong Adolf? Who will dare defeat the world's strongest man? I'll pay 100 kroner to whoever can defeat Strong Adolf. 100 kroner, keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. All right, who will step forward?" No one stepped forward. There's Strong Adolf. "What did he say?" asked Pippi. "And why is he speaking Arabic?" "He said that whoever can beat that huge man will get 100 kroner, said Tommy. "I could do that," said Pippi. "He's the world's strongest man," said Annika. "Man? Yes," said Pippi, "but I'm the world's strongest girl. Keep that in mind." "So, ladies and gentlemen," shouted the ringmaster, "is there really no one who wishes to earn 100 kroner? Am I really going to have to keep all the money for myself?" "No, I really don't think so," said Pippi, and she climbed over the low wall and into the ring. The ringmaster flew into a rage when he caught sight of her. "Get out! Get lost! I don't want to see you!" he snarled. "Why do you always have to be so unfriendly?" said Pippi. "All I want to do is fight with Strong Adolf." "This is no place for jokes," said the ringmaster. "Get out of here before Strong Adolf hears how shameless you are." But Pippi walked right past the ringmaster and over to Strong Adolf. She grabbed his hand and gave it a hearty shake. "Shall we have a little tussle?" Strong Adolf looked at her. "In 1 minute I'm going to start," said Pippi, and she did. She took a firm grip on Strong Adolf's waist, and before anyone knew what had happened, she had him down on the mat. Strong Adolf leapt to his feet, his face bright red. "Hooray for Pippi!" shouted Tommy and Annika. All the spectators in the circus heard them, and they too shouted, "Hooray for Pippi!" The ringmaster was sitting on the low wall and wringing his hands. He was angry. But strong Adolf was even angrier. Never in his life had he experienced anything so awful. Now he was certainly going to have to show this little girl what sort of man strong Adolf was. He rushed at her and grabbed her around the waist. But Pippi stood there as steady as a rock. "You can do better than that," she said, trying to encourage him. But then she prized herself loose, and in an instant strong Adolf was again lying on the mat. Pippi stood next to him waiting. She didn't have long to wait. With a howl, he got to his feet and again came storming towards her. All the spectators at the circus stamped their feet, tossed their caps in the air and said, "Hooray for Pippi!" When strong Adolf came rushing at her for the third time, Pippi lifted him into the air and holding her arms straight up, she carried him around the ring. Then she put him back down on the mat and held him there. "All right, my dear man, I think we've had enough of this for now," she said. "I'm not going to get any more fun than this, that's for sure." "Pippi is the winner! Pippi is the winner!" shouted all the spectators. Strong Adolf slunk away as fast as he could, and the ringmaster was forced to go over and hand Pippi the 100-kroner note, even though he looked as if he would rather swallow her whole. "Here you are, my dear. Here you are 100-kroner. "What's this?" said Pippi. "What am I supposed to do with a piece of paper? Go ahead and fry fish in it if you like." And then she went back to her seat. "This is a very long circus," she said to Tommy. "I wouldn't mind a little cat nap, but wake me up if you need my help with anything." And then she leaned back in her seat and instantly fell asleep. And there she lay snoring as the clowns and sword swallowers and contortionists performed their tricks for Tommy and Annika and all the other spectators at the circus. "I think Pippi was the best of all," Tommy whispered to Annika.